I see you joining me once again from the Charente River. It's August time now, approaching middle of August. Back on another family holiday, trying to get a bit of fishing in again. Just done a quick overnighter, try and do things a little bit different this time of year. Try and get some bait down, hopefully find some fish. Just do some quick overnighters and back to the family holiday during the daytime. Literally just had this one 5 minutes ago. The river's coming in now, and as I found in the spring, if you can get the right areas, it's quite a good time. They seem to feed quite hard. I've had 2 or 3 in the last hour. I've had some quite small ones. This one's probably a mid-double. Not weighed it. Got a slightly bigger one to show you in the sling that I caught a bit earlier. Let's get this one back and get that one out. Okay, so I've just put out the fish back, and fish I mentioned to you earlier is this one, 21 pounds 6 ounces. Came about an hour before first light. I think it was just before the tide started to come in. The biggest of 9 I've had so far. I'm about to pack up now because the tide's going to turn, and I'm going to jump back in the boat and pop down on the tide, back down to where the car is. Seems to be a lot of small fish in the river this year. I didn't find them in May, so I think they've had a stock in, because I fished on Monday night. I had 9 carp exactly the same, but I didn't have one above 14 pound, and everything else was 4 to 6 pound. And tonight I've had this one. I've had an 18.4, a 16.12, that mid-double I showed you, and then I've had, I think, 5 quite a small carp between 2.5 and maybe 6-7 pounds. But this one makes it all worthwhile. Yeah, so I've got down here tonight just before the tide starts running in. I was down last night, and when I left this morning I put a couple of kilo of boilies in and probably a couple of kilo of maize. I was going to put a lot more in, but I didn't get a lot of action last night and the small fish didn't seem to be here, so knowing I was coming tonight I didn't want to overkill the swim, so when I've got here this evening I've literally just put some stringers in. Two of the rods I've chopped the boilies up in half just to get the scent in the water real quick, just in case there's any fish in the area still from this morning, from that bait I've had in. And on the middle rod, where I've already got a yellow topper on a bottom bait, it's a yellow pop-up, I just put a 6-bait stringer on that one just to try and get a quick buy. I've put no freebies out at all, and I was just about to do a piece to camera, and literally I just sat down and I had a take on the left hand rod. It's the rod that's furthest out. It's in about 22 foot of water, but unfortunately it's dived in a sort of sunken rushes bed to my left, and the hook's pulled. Now, I don't think it was a very big fish. I think it was one of the small dinks that I was getting on Friday night. Last night I actually had 4 takes. I had 3 in the dark, 3 good doubles. I weighed one of them, it was high 16 pound. The other 2 were slightly bigger, but I didn't bother weighing them because they were going a bit mental on the mat, and they just end up doing damage to themselves. They're flapping about, jumping in the air. They're so strong, you literally can't do anything with them. So the first 2 I had, I reckon, were probably between 18 and 19 pounds. I put them straight back, and unfortunately the run that I had in the daylight this morning, about 10 to 7, it actually cut me off in the weed. It got me weeded up. I just drifted off out in the boat, freed it of all the weed. It drifted off into the middle of the river. I wound down on it, ping, cut me clean off. Couldn't believe it. The ones I had in the night, no problem whatsoever. I just dragged them through the weed and they came clean in, because obviously I don't want to go in the boat in the middle of the night. Not too clever spinning around in the dark. So unfortunately I've lost the last 2 fish. So I'm hoping my luck's going to change. Right, I came last Friday. Now, I've never fished down here before. Up until this year I've never made use of a boat. I've always fished from the bank. I've always fished where I can park the car right behind the back, because when you're on holiday it's convenient just to nip down, chuck some boilies in, keep an eye on the spots, keep a bit of bait going in, come down, do 2 or 3 hours. But I found in the spring I was baiting a spot up, and because it was on the side of the road, obviously the local lads were seeing me fishing, and the last couple of days of a 2-week holiday I wanted to come down and fish. Yeah, you can guess it, they were sat there. So I vowed when I come back this time to get myself sorted out with a small boat, and so I could literally rove up and down the river, because this section of river where we are, a lot of it is basically unattainable from the bank. There's no roads, there's just farmers' fields, and 90% I would say of the riverbank is completely overgrown with trees, brambles. There's literally nowhere getting to the water. Right, just go through you a little bit what I did when I first got in the swim. Like I say, it's a new swim to me, so I don't know anything about it at all. The depths, the makeup of it. I thought it was going to be quite shallow on the inside, because I'm actually on a bend. Now, everywhere else I've fished on this river, the bends are not kind of, as you would expect, shallow one side, deep the other, where the main flow is. They don't appear to be like that on this river. You tend to find, if it's 18 foot deep off this bank, it'll be 18 foot deep off the other bank. it'll be 20 foot deep in the middle, you know, that kind of thing. It just drops straight off, flat bottom, straight up the other side. All the other corners, bends that I've been on have been exactly like that. Now this is the first one that I've found's different. It's actually shallow this side, really shallow where the boat is. Before the water started coming in, I probably only got 6 to 8 inches. I mean, now it's come up 2 foot, maybe even 2.5. But it drops down here nice and steady, and through general casting from the bank and counting my lead down to the bottom, I kind of worked out that I'd got maybe 10-12 foot at the bottom of this shelf, and then I was going into really deep water in the middle. I was guessing kind of 30 foot, and then obviously far side it was coming back up again. So what I did, I actually went out in the boat, something I've not been able to do before, and I used kind of a donking method. Now basically what that involves is taking a rod out in the boat with me. The particular one I took got braid on it, and 4 ounce lead, and I'm literally lowering the lead down to the riverbed, and then I'm working my way along and I'm donking on the bottom basically, so I can see where the tip is in relation to the river, and I can see if it's getting shallower, if it's getting deeper. Now obviously I already knew from casting that I was going from quite shallow to really, really deep water, so that was only going to work so much on a river. So the next best thing to do, I wanted to spread my rods out in different depths, just to see if the fish preferring a different depth to what I'd normally been fishing. So how I went about that was, obviously a 12 foot rod. I got the lead at the bottom of the 12 foot rod and basically swung it out and came back towards the bank until I was donking on the bottom and the tip was touching the water. So I knew that place was 12 foot deep because I measured it against the rod. All I did then was drop the lead down, brought the boat back to the bank. When I got back to the bank, clipped up, or it would be if I'd cast, and then went to the measuring sticks and measured it out. And then I made a mental note of how many rod lengths, how many wraps it was to that spot. I've got some markers on the far bank, trees, so obviously I can see them in the dark, they're not going to move. So I now know when I clip that up and cast it out, 3.5 rod lengths against that tree, it's going to be 12 foot deep. And I did that with all 3 rods. And the first night I put one at 12 foot, one at 18 foot, and one at 24 foot. And I ended up having runs on all 3 depths, so although it was useful to use the boat for that, in that particular instance it didn't matter whether I was in 12 foot or 24 foot. The only thing I would say is the better fish came in the deeper water. All the small fish I had came off the 12 foot. Because I've actually got quite a bit of weed on this shallow shelf that's in front of me. And it's causing me a bit of a problem, but I'm managing to get fish through it, even in the dark and with flow. So I'm not overly concerned. The only time I've ever had any problems, it's been with the small fish. The small fish seem to weed you up, I don't know why. The bigger ones, as long as you keep some pressure on, eventually they kick and they free themselves out of the weed. They've got more power, they're bigger fish, I don't know. Maybe there's something in it. But it's certainly worked for me so far. day, so just a quick update before I have to pack up, get back home again. Not been a good night at all. Lost that fish last night when I first got here. Managed to slip the hook. Got me in some rushes to my left. I lost it pretty quickly, to be fair, once it was in there, so I don't think it was hooked too well. Then it was a quiet night till 4:30 this morning. I had a run on the same rod. That got me in the rushes again. It got me through the weed. Absolute nightmare. But I managed to get it in the end. Nice common, £15. But I wasn't about to sack it up, so I put it back. And that was all the action till about 10 to 7, just as the light was coming up. Had another one toner on the left hand rod again, exactly the same rod, exactly the same place where most of the fish have been coming from. And it ran out into the middle of the river, so with the weed being close in, I didn't see any need to stop it. Let it go out in the middle of the river, and it kited downstream to the right. If anything, would have made it easier for me to land it to the right because there's less weed. And lo and behold, I found a snag in the middle of the river. As I found out now, it's probably the same snag that cut me off yesterday morning. So a bit of heave-hoeing for 5 minutes, put the rod on the rest, see if the fish would come out. The fish was still there because I could see it knocking, but no way it was coming out. So went out in the boat, tried everything, all different angles, went over the other side, pulling, tried getting right over the top of it, really giving it some strain with the rod and with my hand, trying to hand line it, and I could feel something lifting up and dropping back down again, so I knew it was around a branch or a tree or something like that. So anyway, I came back to the bank, put the rod on the rest, just no sign, nothing, left it for 20 minutes, not a thing. So in the end I sort of tightened down and flat rod to the snag and just kept pulling. And to my surprise, eventually it actually came free, but the fish had long gone and I was just wrapped around the snag. Yet again I had to take to the boat because it got lodged in the shallow margins. So not a good evening all in. 3 runs, 2 lost, just the one £15 to show for it. Now I've been putting quite a bit of bait in, so I'm beginning to think I've maybe fished the spot out, because the first night I had 9 runs, albeit a lot of them were small ones. The second night I had 4 runs, and then last night I've had 3. So it's getting quieter every night, and I've been baiting up, so if anything it should be getting better. So I've got 1 night left. I'm not fishing tonight, I'm fishing Thursday night. So it's a choice now. Do I, because I've got some bait with me again, so do I bait up here and come back Thursday night, or do I try somewhere else? The problem is starting afresh somewhere else is a big leap of faith, really. I mean, there could be one last big fish in this swim, and obviously with hooking all the others, the chance of getting that fish is getting greater. But we'll have to see. I'll make my mind up over the next couple of days. have any action till 3 o'clock this morning. Had a blistering run on the right hand rod. I was playing it for about 10 minutes. I'm sure it was a better fish. Not a real big one, but it certainly won one of the small ones. And it was just skirting alongside the rushes to my left hand side in the water, no problem whatsoever. And the hook pull, to say I was gutted was an understatement. You know, every time you lose one of these fish, you just don't know if that's going to be the one, the big one you've been waiting for. You're ploughing through all the smaller ones, just waiting for that one special fish. And then just as the light was coming up, I had a beautiful fish, just over 14 pound, nice common. It was certainly a welcome relief when that one turned up, especially after losing so many fish beforehand. So I quickly sacked that one up so I'd get some pictures, because I thought that was probably the only one I was going to get. I'd literally just got it in the sack and the next rod ripped off, and that one put up a much better fire. I knew it was going to be a bit better fish. Well, not a bad way to end the Charente 2018 campaign. Probably going to be the last fish of the trip. I've only got one rod left out now. £19.12. It's a good end to what's been a difficult evening and night, but when you get a fish like that, it makes it all worthwhile. Looking forward to next year already.